Hi, so this video is supposed to walk you through the process of how we're going to download a data set and import it into Statkey, our technology that we're going to use to help us to look at the distribution of data and calculate summary statistics like mean and median. So the data set that we're going to work with today is called price.csv. I'll try to include a link for it, but this data comes from Zillow, and so you can sort of read more about the data here. But essentially, it is looking at sort of the, predicted or what Zillow estimates to be the price of a rental in many different regions around the United States. So I'm going to click to download it to my computer. On my browser, the way that my computer is set up, it prompts me for where I'd like to save it. And I'm going to save it here in my Stat52 folder. If your computer doesn't prompt you to do that, you can just save it into your downloads folder or wherever sort of makes sense for you. Okay. You'll notice that this is a .csv file. Not that it really matters, but .csv stands for comma separated values. It's just a particular type of data file, and it will open in Excel. So if you have Excel on your computer, you can click on here to have it open up. Okay. If you don't have Excel on your computer, that's okay. You don't need it for this course, but I have it on my computer. So I'm just going to open up Excel, this CSV file in Excel, just to sort of show you what it looks like. I know that the font might be kind of small for you, depending on how big a screen you're watching this video on, but essentially each row here represents a different sort of geographic region in the United States. And this spans, I think it's all 50 states and many different sort of cities and regions within all of the United States. Each of these columns here represents what Zillow is predicting to be sort of the rental price in that area based on the data that they've sort of seen. So for example, this is the November 2010 column. So if I wanted to rent an apartment in Los Angeles, California in November 2010, I would have expected to pay $2,184. And there's probably some variation there, right? This is just the overall prediction. Obviously, it depends on how big an apartment I want to rent and where within the city and all of those other factors. But what this does allow us to do is sort of compare across time. So that apartment or that predicted apartment is going to be $2,184. And each of these columns represents a different year. And so for example, I think this goes all the way until 2017 or 2018. There's lots of data here. There we go. So the last column I have here is January 2017. And it's saying that, in 7 years between 2010 and 2017, we now think that the median or the predicted price will be $2,753. So what we might want to do is we might want to take this data and import it into Statkey so that we can work with it. There is a lot of things that you can do in Excel if you're familiar with Excel to be able to look at graphs or calculate things. But being able to do this in Statkey is going to be really important once we get to the next couple of sections in the course. So let's walk through this. So the lock5.stat.com/Statkey, if you just Google Statkey, this should come up. Okay, so this is a free online tool that we're going to be able to use to import in data. I'm going to click on one quantitative variable today, and it will load. There is some data that's sort of pre-loaded in here, and you can see all that data here. I don't know if we'll work with it too much in this course. What I want you to be able to do is upload a file. So I'm going to click Upload File. And then I'm going to select the data. So I'm going to navigate to the folder where it's saved, and I'm going to click on my data set. Yep, that's fine in this case. Okay. And so you'll see that the data is sort of previewed in here. So again, you don't have to have Excel on your computer. You should be able to preview it here. What this is going to prompt you for is to select one quantitative variable or one numeric variable. So I couldn't select like city, for example. That's not a number variable. But let's say I wanted to know sort of the distribution or some things about the rental prices in November 2010. So I'm going to select that column. And this is going to allow me to sort of go through and look at different characteristics or the distribution of these rents in November 2010. Okay, so if I press OK, you can see here sort of a dot plot or a histogram. We tend to look at histograms more. Either is fine. Okay, so you can see here, you can look at the distribution in the rents. Most regions seem to have the majority of the rents being less than $2,500. But it seems like there's some regions here where the rent is quite expensive. I'd be very curious what regions those are. Maybe we can look that up in a minute. Okay, but this allows you to sort of look at the distribution of the prices. Over here is your summary statistics. So in this case, I can see that the mean, the average sort of predicted rental price in the US in this particular year, November 2010, was $1,327. Okay. The median, if we go down a little bit farther, is here. The median is also a measure of the middle or the center of the data. They're calculated slightly differently. I think it walks you through that in the video. But in this case, the median is $1,195. And that sort of makes sense. That seems to be where the vast majority of the observations are. Other observations I might make from looking at this is that this data here appears to be pretty skewed, right? There's this sort of long tail on the right-hand side. Most of the observations are sort of clustered here on the left, and there's very few places where the rent is like $10,000, or this one here is maybe even considered an outlier, this 18,787. I'm curious where those are. You can stop watching the video now if you want. But let's just go and see where those places are, just because I'm curious. So in Excel, I'm just going to sort from highest to lowest. And so in this place, it looks like Jupiter Island, Florida is a very, very expensive rent there. Belvedere, California has very, very expensive rental prices. Westlake in Texas, Atherton in California, Ross in California, Rolling Hills in California. Yeah, these are some interesting. Paradise Valley in Phoenix. Yeah. And so we can sort of see what some of those higher values are, but there's fewer of them, right? There's very few places that have the rent as being, more than $5,000 a month. Okay. But Statkey is going to allow us to sort of see the distributions of any set of data we want to look at, and it allows us to sort of calculate some summary statistics.